If you're making one of these mistakes when managing your sales team, you might as well just take your money and light it on fire. Hey guys, Lloyd here again, and I've been in sales for almost 10 years now, starting in door-to-door sales, moving to software, and then eventually starting my own company where we hire, recruit, and train salespeople for our clients. In that time, I've seen a lot of sales teams, both good and bad. So today, I want to share with you what great sales teams do to ensure that their reps actually succeed and thrive and make both themselves and you lots of money. Whereas, what are some of the mistakes that poor sales teams always make that cause their sales reps to crash and burn and probably cost both themselves and you lots of money? Now, before we get into it, please just drop a like and a subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'll be releasing lots of new and epic content every single week for free about sales, marketing, and building great sales teams. Now, the first mistake that sales teams often make when it comes to deploying salespeople is that they don't provide a great onboarding experience. You cannot hire someone and just expect that they figure it out all on their own. It's critical that you teach them about your offer, about the psychology of your customers, about your competition early on. And the best onboarding program that I've ever been on did all of that in spades. Literally, my first day, I arrived, and not only did they give me a mug and a sweater and my laptop, but they also ushered me into a full week of meeting with their VPs of marketing and sales and them teaching me literally everything that I had to know. They had PowerPoint slides, they had their scripts, they had their SOPs, and it was a smooth process for me to become pretty much an expert in their business. On the flip side, I've actually been in startups where because they were so early on, my first day was like, hey Lloyd, just go figure it out. And it became much more difficult for me to really sell properly because I had to figure out everything on my own. So the question is, which one of these did you want to be? Now, the second mistake that I see all the time is that companies just simply do not provide ongoing training. Now, obviously that onboarding process that I was talking about before is really important, and it technically is training, but onboarding only lasts for a week or two. But the reality is, a really good sales rep doesn't get there just because they went through a couple weeks of training. They get there because every single week they're talking to their team, they're figuring out ways that they could be better at their job, whether it be in terms of attention to detail or tracking or persuasion, literally anything under the sun. And as a manager, it's your job that you're providing consistent sales training, that you're doing pipeline reviews, that you're doing one-on-ones, and that on occasion you're pulling a rep aside and saying, hey, what is it that you're struggling with? What are your goals? How can I best serve you and help you? Now, the third mistake that I see all the time, which could tank your sales team's performance, is to not have a strong company culture. The reality is, sales is a competitive sport, but just like in athletics, everyone performs the best when they feel as though they're supported, when they're appreciated, when they can actually go to people for help without judgment. Bad sales teams are ones where people just simply do not want to support each other because everyone has an ego, everyone wants to be number one, and everyone wants to actually be better than everyone else by tearing everyone else down. That is not the way to go. I've actually been in sales teams where if I performed really well, I would get excited, right? I would be not only excited about the commissions that were coming my way, but I thought I was gonna get respect. I thought that everyone was gonna be like, wow, Lloyd's doing so well. Let's make sure that everyone knows. But in those sales teams, that never actually happened. I could be crushing it month after month and no one would even say, hey, you're doing a great job. I would always feel as though I was underappreciated. A good culture changes all of this. A good culture, people wanna actually assist each other. When you are struggling in a good culture, you can actually ask for help and you would feel as though people are on your side. I've been in experiences where I was afraid to go and ask for help because I knew my manager would not only laugh at me, but they would get frustrated that I was being such an idiot, and they might even yell at me in public in front of all my other colleagues. That has literally happened before. This is so important that actually I made a separate video that just goes super deep into this specific aspect, and I would highly recommend that you check it out if you're in the process of scaling out your sales team. Now, the fourth mistake that I would say is quite common, and you need to make sure you're avoiding it, is that many companies just have weak marketing and weak lead gen prior to hiring their sales team. And this is a huge problem because you have to understand whether you're a closer or you're a setter, your performance really does rely on whether or not the rest of the team does their job. For example, if you're a closer, but there's no sales calls on your calendar, there's not very many deals that you can close. In the same way, as a setter, if there's no leads in the CRM that you can call or hit up, then how are you gonna book any meetings? I've literally been on sales teams where people quit because they were just not being utilized properly, where they were just sitting at their desk all day looking at an empty calendar, and despite them being very good at sales, they just had no deals to try to close. So you can imagine the frustration there. The best thing to do is to just simply don't hire until you know that you have enough leads to feed that particular salesperson. Once you do, once that salesperson feels as though, wow, I'm so busy, like I feel as though I'm getting so much opportunity, that is the situation in which your closers and your reps can probably perform at their absolute best, and they'll never leave because they know that they're being taken good care of. Now, the fifth mistake that I've seen time and time again is that the compensation plan is just not motivating to reps. Once again, I've actually seen so many salespeople quitting because they were simply not getting paid enough. In fact, I've actually poached and stolen many salespeople from other sales teams who are high performers, and it's because, for whatever reason, that other sales team, they had a capped commission model, or the commission per close was just really, really low. And you'll never even believe this, some sales teams didn't even provide a commission at all, and you would literally have these talented salespeople that were closing lots of deals and earning nothing for their good performance. How crazy is that? Now, it's not just about how much the commission model can potentially pay someone though, it's also about your quota, because I've definitely seen a lot of sales reps getting frustrated at the companies that they're with where the quota is just simply too high. Think about it, right? Let's say you're in a sales floor of 10 people and only 1 out of those 10 people close enough deals every single month to even hit their quota. That's gonna feel as though you're chasing this impossible task. And when the expectation is so high that you don't even believe that you can hit it, that actually is very unmotivating. You wanna set your quotas and your KPIs to be definitely challenging, but not so challenging that it feels like it's impossible to overcome. Generally speaking, if you have this hyper-aggressive quota that no one can hit, it ends up hurting the entire team's morale. And in the background, you will actually have salespeople just talking amongst themselves saying, hey, this is impossible. The sales manager is such a mean person because they're setting these unrealistic expectations. And honestly, you don't want that to be the type of morale on the sales floor. Now, the final thing that I'll say about compensation is if you do provide a base salary, let's just make sure that you're not overdoing the base. For example, if your base is $5,000 a month, but then the commission is likely to only be $2,000 to $3,000 a month, the thing is, in that situation, the commission's so low relative to the base that it's just not gonna be very incentivizing. People are likely to just get lazy because they know that they could just sit down and do very little and still make most of what they could potentially earn. You wanna make sure that if there is a base, that they could still potentially double or even triple their total take-home income if they do well in terms of their performance. Now, this is also really important, so much so that I've built a video just on how to provide the perfect compensation structure. So definitely check it out if you're looking to set up a perfect compensation model for your sales team. Now, the final mistake that I wanna mention is that many sales teams just don't provide good systems to enable and support their reps to succeed. Now, back in the day, we didn't really need that many systems. For example, when I was going door to door, I just had a little bit of a notepad and I would knock on a bunch of houses and I would hopefully close a lot of deals. But it's modern times now, and we have technology, we have automations, we have softwares that can allow our salespeople to perform at an even higher level than they would have before. And if you don't up your game with the level of softwares that you're providing your team, the reality is your competitors will crush your reps even if they're talented because they are assisting their reps with the right tech. For example, having a CRM to keep things organized, to have automation tools that will allow you to be much more effective when it comes to getting out prospecting messages. Even things like call recording tools to allow you to analyze calls and give feedback on how those sales calls went. All of these great sales teams have a marketing budget and a technology budget put in to allow their sales team to just perform at a higher level. So the question is, are you doing that right now? If you're just starting out your sales team, you don't have to have all of this figured out. Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Try as much as you can to solidify all of these things, but if there's a couple of these areas that you're probably not perfect on, that's fine. Just use this as an ideal to strive towards. If you're actually interested in working with me or asking me for some specific recommendations, by all means, just book a time with me below. My calendar link is actually in the description box. I have already helped over 120 different companies around the world with sales, marketing, and building sales teams, so you'd definitely be in good company. Now, if none of that's interesting, then check out these other recommended videos, and I'll see you on the other side. Cheers.